Wolfie, are you okay?
Whoa! Wolfman! Hi. Hi. Hello. I didn't expect to see you here.
Did something happen?
What? No. Why would we ever think that?
You do remember that we were supposed to do a crossover for Halloween, right?
What? Tonight. I scheduled this tonight?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, that is just typical. That's what you call poor planning skills.
So, is there any reason you,
What?
well, you know.
I don't know what you're talking about, Wolfman, but you should be warned. You should be warned. Beware, Wolfman. Beware.
What?
Even a man or woman who is pure by heart and says his or hers prayer by night may become a wolf when the Wolfman blooms and the autumn moon shines bright.
Wait a second, are you hitting on me?
What? Why would you even think that?
Okay then, just checking. Whatever. Wolfman?
Yeah, Wolfman.
Well, today we're going to be talking about the Wolfman, known to fans the world over as one of the classic Universal Studios monsters. Surviving from 1941 to the present day, the Wolfman has become part of popular culture not only due to his titular film, but also because of a string of appearances alongside other classic monsters and a recent remake that shall not be analyzed here. Of course, the excellent performance of Lon Chaney Jr., son of the proverbial man of a thousand faces Lon Chaney, plays a huge role in that as well. Here, he has the dual role as both a hideous, slavering beast and also the Wolfman. We begin with Larry Talbot, returning to his ancestral home in Wales. How anyone could think that Lon Chaney Jr. is from Wales is anybody's guess, but there you go.
Apparently him and his father, played by Claude Rains, most known from Casablanca and The Invisible Man, had a fight back in time that sent Larry away and they hadn't seen each other for years.
He hasn't seen his father, Claude Rains, for years.
You were expecting an Invisible Man joke there? Don't hold your breath. Too easy.
Well, now you're just not being any fun.
What brought Larry home, though, was the demise of his only brother, and now him and his father, being the only two left, have some reconciling to do.
We don't spend too much time on that, though, as the movie is busy establishing a love interest, who is already engaged to someone else.
Yeah, many of these classic horror movies actually had this triangle thing going on long before Twilight ever did. Although in these, usually the one guy is a main character and the other some jerk who will eventually get his comeuppance in some kind of kill.
Griffin, I'll do anything. Everything you ask me.
You will? That's fine. Just sit where you are. I'll get out and take the handbrake off and give you a little shove to help you on. You'll run gently down and through the railings. Then you'll have a big thrill for 100 yards or so till you hit a boulder. Then you'll do a somersault and probably break your arms. Then a grand finish up with a broken neck. Well, goodbye, Kemp. I always said you were a dirty little coward. You're a dirty, sneaking little rat as well. Goodbye.
This guy's a bit different, though, since he actually had the girl first, and he's a decent guy who the girl loves. So there's no way for Larry to get her anyway.
That, however, doesn't quite stop him from going to the fair with them, which was probably the biggest mistake of his life. First he meets Dracula disguised as a gypsy, and then the gypsy lady tells Larry that he is cursed and that he should beware. Larry doesn't quite believe her, of course, which leads to his second great mistake of that night. Get into a hand-in-hand wrestling match with a wolf that, of course, bites him in the process.
Larry manages to pummel the everlasting shit out of the werewolf with a silver-headed cane he bought earlier, and because werewolves are apparently vulnerable to tacky walking accessories, he ends up beating the werewolf to death.
You know, I don't believe I've ever seen anybody hand wrestle a werewolf before. That's pretty hardcore.
It beats arm wrestling Frankenstein.
I think before we go around killing people, we had better make dance here.
Only for the next day, the townspeople find the corpse of, not a wolf, but of the Bela Lugosi gypsy man from earlier.
Of course, it raises a few questions when Larry comes home claiming to have beaten a wolf to death, only for the police to find the body of a dead gypsy with the impression of Larry's cane in its skull. Mainly, why does Larry claim that he was bitten by a wolf despite there not being much of a wound, and why is there a dead gypsy where the wolf ought to be? It all looks kind of fishy, but luckily for Larry, there was an eyewitness who saw the wolf, so he's allowed to go for now.
Here starts the aspects that really works in this movie, and you don't really get in any modern fast-paced big horror productions. A slow, unsettling build-up. At this point, Larry is acting rationally for what happens. But the people around him doesn't see it that way. They see a crazy person raving nonsense. So they genuinely start questioning his sanity. Even his father does this. And that makes Larry question his own sanity. He doesn't know what is happening. The gypsy woman keeps ranting these out there warnings, and yet her warnings are the only explanation Larry have gotten so far. Yet, as shown earlier, Larry is not a man of superstition. He is a man of the modern world, who moved away at the time exactly to pursue what he finds logical.
Optical company in California. We did quite a job on that Mount Wilson Observatory.
You interested in astronomy?
Not especially. I'm all right with tools. In fact, I've done quite a little work with astronomical instruments, but when it comes to theory, I'm pretty much of an amateur.
All astronomers are amateurs.
Therefore, it goes against his nature to believe in the gypsy woman. But what else does he got at this time? The only explanation would be that he really has become insane. And at the same time, in his world, believing the gypsy woman would be an insane thing to do. And this unsettling situation is only building. The lead hasn't even come off yet.
Of course, Larry really starts to question his sanity when he actually turns into a frigging wolf.
And that night, of course, the werewolf runs out to claim his first victim. The next morning, Larry wakes up not remembering at all what happened, but he is suspecting. And as his father tells about wolf tracks leading back into the house, Larry's suspicions are only confirmed. Although, as he tried to present the idea of werewolves actually existing to his father, it doesn't go that much better than anyone would have expected.
Now, you ask me if I believe a man can become a wolf. If you mean can he take on the physical characteristics of an animal, no, it's fantastic. However, I do believe that most anything can happen to a man in his own mind.
Larry tries to tell people about his suspicions again, hoping to get some help or at least an explanation. And much to his surprise, the people around him do come up with an explanation. That he's stark, staring crazy. And that he needs mental help. Now let me think. Who does that remind me of?
Me going crazy? Who has ever heard of something that ludicrous? Really is insane!
However, that night, Larry transforms for a second time and claims a second victim. This time, waking up in the woods having been caught in a wolf trap, several men out hunting for him. Larry is at last sure that he is indeed a werewolf. Though transformed back, he managed to escape the scene.
It's Master Larry.
What are you doing here, sir?
Why, the same thing that you are, of course, hunting.
Only now knowing for sure that he does turn into a wolf at night, there are some issues he has to deal with.
I killed Bela. I killed Richardson. If I stay around here much longer, you can't tell who's going to be next.
And so, for the last time, Larry tries to convince his father of his problems. Unfortunately, Daddy still thinks that Larry is...
Gypsy woman? Now we're getting down to it. She's been filling your mind with this gibberish. This talk of werewolves and pentagrams. You're not a child, Larry. You're a grown man, and you believe in the superstitions of a gypsy woman.
No, but the scar, the footprints in my room.
That really is the most annoying thing in the entire world. Just knowing something and you can't tell. Can you just imagine?
Yes, it's almost as annoying as dealing with somebody who actually is crazy. Anyway, Larry's dad does the only thing he can for his son, tying him to a chair with a view of the full moon to convince Larry that he won't turn into a wolf. Because as we all know, tying people up until they're less crazy totally works.
You know, we should ask Joshua. Something tells me he would know. Of course, as it happens, Larry was the one in the right and the father the one in the wrong, and for the third time, Larry turns into a wolf and breaks out of the chair.
This time, however, the entire village is out hunting for the wolf that's been killing people, and eventually they track poor Larry and corner him.
At last the father gets his hands on Larry's silver cane to use as a weapon and continues to beat the Wolfman to death, which of course leads to the big reveal as the sled Wolfman reverts back into Larry for everybody to see, probably shattering all they have known and believed in. Especially the father, who had been the most persistent in his claim of no such things as werewolf exists. And now he has lost both sons.
And on that grim note, the movie simply ends.
In spite of a low budget and this movie coming out way later than the other recognizable Universal titles, it's a great movie. A movie where clever scripting is the one driving the movie and actually manages to deliver suspense and an unnerving atmosphere.
According to some stories, originally the Wolfman itself shouldn't have appeared in this movie. Originally, the story was going to be a bit more like Cat People, mainly dealing with the question of whether Larry was going crazy or not, and never giving the audience a definite answer.
And you can actually feel that in this movie as we are all halfway through before the Wolfman appears. But as it turns out, it was actually all for the better as this really ends up working so very well. Unlike most other classic monster movies such as Dracula, Frankenstein or Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, this story is not based on any pre-existing work. More, it just took some very vague folklore from medieval times and tried to turn it into a movie. This may be the very first movie ever to give the werewolf mythos its rules, such as the wolf being vulnerable to silver, the wolfman being afflicted with the werewolf curse, and it's all probably deeply affecting how we perceive werewolves in fictional medium today.
I gotta go. I can't stay here any longer.
Let me go with you.
I particularly love the fact how this movie actually deals what a horrifying thing it must be to wake up and just not know what happened, the fear of turning into a monster. Although Lon Chaney Jr. was cast for contrived reasons, mainly his recognizable name, I really do believe this is also a lucky cast that ends up working. Lon Chaney Jr. has this sort of really haunted air around him. He just looks so used and so tired, and yet he has to go on, and he is just a haunted man down deep into his soul. And for a tragic character like the Wolfman, it just works wondrous. It really makes you believe that he is this haunted, tired person who just wants it all to end.
I can figure out most anything. Beginning with electric tubes and wires, but something I can do with my hands. But these things you can't even touch. What's the matter with you, Dad?
And the only real end, the only true end, the only way for a character like this to find peace is death.
In other words, it's an absolute classic and a must-see for Universal Monster fans and for werewolf film fans.
And that's all I know, but it doesn't explain much. Why didn't you tell him what happened?
Because if I told the truth, he would call me mad.
Well, I can't imagine why anyone would think that.
Don't you see, questions? It's not only the strength of the vampire, but every supernatural creature that nobody wants to believe in them. Rather, they want some logical explanation. So when you come as a scientist and trying to take a scientific approach, building a monster from bodies, people call you mad, people call you crazy.
A mad scientist.
Why would you even think that? I'm just trying to use what I have to create a wonder worthy of God. A beautiful creature that will at last free us.
So, not a mad scientist, huh?